Yo, peace, light, love, 1 1 1 1, check, mic check 1 2. Light and love, brothers and sisters, how you doing? Once again, it's been a while. It's been a minute since I have done anything on YouTube. I've been engaged in other platforms, other places, other spaces in which I've been sharing information, and it's been nice. It's been cool. But I'm back, and I got some pretty interesting information to share with you. This presentation, hopefully it will liven and enlighten your information base upon one of the most crucial elements that we have in our society today, and that's like the origin of these Western Abrahamic beliefs, faith-based systems, right? It's not hidden, it's just not talked about. So, hopefully this information that I share with you today can help you in your life in some shape, form, or fashion. And we'll take it from there. We'll get it on from there. All right, let me go ahead and see if I can share my screen. All right, so let's see here. I got it going on. Boom, boom, boom. Yes. One sec. All right, so we're going to start this presentation off with some instructions that was given to one of our great African ancestors. This is King Merikare. He was a king of the Middle Kingdom in ancient Kemet. And, I never recognized how instructive this was until I did this research. Initially, I thought this was talking about the common colonizer that we all face today, but I realized this was talking more specifically about the pre-Abrahamic people. And it says, but as concerns the foreigners, let this be said, the vile Asiatic is miserable because of the place he is in. Shortage of water, lack of trees, and the path thereof difficult because of mountains. He has never settled in one place, but plagued by want, he wanders the deserts on foot. He has been fighting ever since the time of Horus. He neither conquers nor can be conquered. He does not announce the day of fighting, but is like a thief whom society has expelled. It's because it's going to become important later on, because it's going to lead to the origins of a type of people that we are dealing with in our day-to-day lives, actually, that we have to contend with, just for our very existence. All right, so this here is a list of references that I've used throughout this presentation. So if I happen to, I've definitely tried to put references on the slides where I got everything from. I'm not going to say everything is there. So if you want to check my references, there you go. Go ahead and snapshot it. Go ahead and take a picture, take a video. That'll last longer. Understand that it is there, though. All right. So this is kind of what I'm going to be going over right here. We're going to talk about Moses and the false nature of the Exodus. We're going to talk about the ratchet theories of archaeologists making Moses, connecting Moses and the Egyptian personalities. We're going to talk about the importance of the Armana Letters and the wretched of the desert. The Israelites are simply Canaanites that chose to be different. Then we're going to jump into how polytheism, and then we're going to jump into polytheism and the mother goddess tradition of ancient Judaism. Next, we're going to then get into Egypt, the land of the free, home of the slave, and then we're going to jump into some of this biblical plagiarism we got going on here. Now, we're going to see how long this takes. Hopefully, I don't take up too much of your time. Initially we're talking about the origins of the Hebrew Israelites, but we're talking about the origins of the Hebrew Israelites back in the day when they were young, not a kid anymore. All right, first of all, we got to deal with this chick right here, Jochebed, right? There's a main reason we have to deal with her because Jochebed is the mother of Moses. Now, I have tried to locate her in the Bible per se, but it is very difficult to find. I haven't been able to do that. But I have been able to kind of pull some information out of the Babylonian Talmud in reference to Jochebed, right? And it says, and there went a man of the house of Levi and took a daughter of Levi. Is it possible that a woman of 130 years of age should be named daughter? This meant that Jochebed, whose mother was pregnant while on the road to Egypt and was born before the walls when they arrived in Egypt, as it is written. Numbers 26:59, right? And so that you do get, in Numbers 26:59, you get Amram married Levi Kohath's sister, and Jochebed is Levi's daughter. So this is the first thing that we need to focus on here, right? So Jochebed marries Amram at 120 years old. So when the first thing we're going to do here is we're going to think rationally. Does it make any sense that Amram was knocking up his auntie when she was 120 years old? They were knocking boots all the way up until 130, having children in the meantime, and then births Moses. 100. I want you to think about this, please. Just a little rationality here. 130-year-old woman gives birth. I don't know. That doesn't quite make sense to me. But if you want to still have that as your understanding, then sure, go ahead and eat the chocolate eggs of the Easter Bunny. That is fine by me. But so that's the first flaw. That's the first issue that we're going to take a note of, right? Now, this is common. This is simple. But this is establishing a basis of, dealing with context. So I do get what I have to do here. So let me go ahead and do this really fast. Hold a second. All right. So it's important to know Jochebed, right? It's important to get who she is simply because this is going to establish a narrative. This is going to establish a timeline. This is going to establish a thought pattern within the Abrahamic Hebrew narrative, right? So now we got a 130-year-old woman. Let's just take it as it is. 130-year-old woman giving birth to the Savior, so to speak. One of the first saviors of the Hebrew Israelite faith, right? So there we go, right? That makes no sense, but let's move on, right? So now, so we're coming to, so if we're moving on, we're coming to the fact that Moses is born. There's all this escape stuff, right? We got this Sargon story going on here, but we're not gonna deal with that. Moses is born, spends 40 years in Egypt doing what he does, and then kills the Egyptian and runs off, right? So at this point, let's pay attention here, right? Let's pay attention here. So Jochebed, the purpose of Jochebed is that she's a time marker. Gotta understand this. Jochebed is a time marker. Okay? So when Jochebed is born, that's the first year in ancient Canaan, right? Boom. Now Amram marries Jochebed when she's 120 years old. So this gives them a time period of being in Egypt 120 years. Then Moses born 10 years later. It's 130 years now. Moses runs away from Kemet 40 years after that. Now we're at 170 years, right? And then Moses comes back and frees the Hebrews at 80, so roughly 40 years later. 40 years in Egypt, 40 years in the desert, comes back, plague, kill, separate, water, the Hebrews are free. So this is the time period, right? We have 70 people. And this is where it gets kind of funky here. We're now having 70 people enter Kemet. 200 now, those 70 people, that's men and their families, right? With Jacob, Isaac, whatever, with Jacob, and so now of those 70 people, let's say 30 of them are men, with another 40 is a mix between women and children, right? So now we got 210 years later, 603,000, not just Jews, but 603,000 men between the ages of 20 and 50 leave Egypt. This is a flaw right here, right? Because now we are going to try to come to this understanding that, somehow, oh, soon you may, one love, light and love, light and love. It's been a minute. I'm practicing a presentation that I'm giving later. So hope you can enjoy it. It's kind of long. It's kind of, yeah, I'm definitely back. I got some good news, but I'm gonna keep it on the low until it happens. Stay tuned. You might, witness something special here. I would really appreciate your feedback. And, as long as you stay. This is going to be a quite a long presentation. But if you do stay, all right. If you do stay, I'm guarantee you're going to hear some information that, you may have heard it depending on what circles you travel in, but I didn't hear it until I researched it. So this stuff, though, this stuff is common. This is just I'm going over this right now just because this is laying the foundation, right? So, but just knocking it out the box, you got it doesn't quite make sense. We all know this. It doesn't quite make sense that we said 30 people, 30 men, 210 years later turns into 603,000. Now let's just say, for simplicity's sake, right? You got 603,000 men over 20 up to 50, right? Then not including, women at all. Let's say let's say this was like a freak society and they had less women than men. So let's just say they had 500,000 women, right? Now we're at 1.1 million people, right? And then let's just say the people that were under 20 was 300,000. That includes boys and girls, right? So let's just say that's 300,000, which is not normally the case, but that's the way it goes. And then let's include old men and old women over 50. Let's just give them 200,000, right? That makes sense. Come on now, let's be realistic, right? We're definitely talking about family, right? A man is not a man by himself. He's got grandparents, he's got parents, he's got kids, he's got nieces, he's got nephews, Just be honest with yourself, right? So now we're at 1 point. What is this going on here now? I got 6. I got 1.1, 1.4. We're up here at 1.6 million Jews. The numbers don't add up. Let's be rational. Kemet back in the day, had anywhere at the time that the Hebrews or the Hyksos or whatever was supposed to be in Kemet would have only had between 3 to 4 million people. Now we're talking about 1.6 million Jews being in Egypt at this time and oppressed. That doesn't make any sense. Brother Jabari the other day said that ancient Kemet did not have slavery like that. And then how is it that 70 people in 210 years turns into 1.8 million people? Now, if you like your Easter bunny and you like your chocolate eggs that the Easter bunny lays, I can't really deal with that. And you can keep moving and grooving in that, but this makes no sense. And if you don't believe me, go ahead and check the sources. Numbers 1:21 through 43. That gives you the accounts from each of the tribes, right? And then it's just mind-boggling how people rolling with this and thinking it's real and deal. It's the real deal. That doesn't make any sense, right? So moving forward and moving on, this is the breakdown of the chart of the sons, the 12 tribes, right? And I mean, it's just ridiculous. You got Zebulon, knocking boots and then having 57,000 descendants. And then you got Joseph knocking boots, 40,000 descendants. Manasseh knocking boots, 32,000 descendants. I mean, the ridiculous numbers just keep going and growing and growing. 62,000, 41,000, 53,000. Come on now, this is not making any sense whatsoever. So this is your Exodus story, right? And they're trying to justify how people became a nation. They're trying so hard to be associated and affiliated with ancient Kemet, because ancient Kemet, let's just be honest, it was the Harvard and the Stanford of the ancient world, right? But when you really just kind of look at it, this is not making sense, right? So the Exodus story is crap. All scholars, biblical scholars right now, they can kind of say, okay, this doesn't make any sense, right? Let's just chop it up to that doesn't make sense. So we got different scholars doing different things to try to fit this narrative into the story still, right? Now, once again, now we got the Jews had 603,000 men, and then we got it up to 1.8 million people in total in their community. That if that amount of people had left Egypt, that's almost half of ancient Kemetic society. There is all of these different kingdoms here: the Hittite Empire, the Mitanni Empire, the Assyrian Empire, the Babylonian Empire. They would have came into Kemet at that time and crushed it, ruled it, and then they would have moved the timetable up another 600 years because as we know, 600 years later they did end up doing that. But that's not because of the Jews leaving. That's because of other factors and other forces at play. So understand logically, rationally, it's not making sense. And we're gonna go through this a little bit more, a little bit heavier, right? So there's all this fuss, there's all this chaos in relationship to who are these different gods in the Bible that Moses is fighting his people against, right? So if they came out of Kemet, right? So I mean, we can really say, like, if 70 went in, 603,000 came out, 1.8 million people came out, right? And if they were knocking boots all that time, we can really say, okay, so this is a mixed population, and it says they were a mixed multitude, right? And we can definitely say then the majority of them had to have been Kemites, right? They had to have been Kemetic people, right? So that's okay. So we can soothe our consciousness with that conversation. But then we would have to say, well, the Bible would have Kemetic deities that the God Yahweh was fighting. But if we go through the Bible, we're not looking at a single Kemetic deity in there. We would definitely at that time have seen Ra-Harakti. We would have seen Aten. We would have seen Amen. We would have seen Heru. We would have seen Het-Heru. We would have seen Aset. We would have seen Nebatet. We would have seen Ptah. We would have seen Sokar. We would have seen all of these, at least one. We could have at least seen one deity within the Bible, but we don't find a single authentic Kemetic deity. We have to do all of this flipping and changing around and doing all these crazy associations. But the truth is that they're not there. But there are deities there. And those deities are Chemosh by name, Asherah by name, Moloch by name, Baal by name. And there's a specific reason, because these are natural Ugaritic and Mesopotamian gods that are in this area which my brother calls Canaan. I like to call Mesopotamia or Syria. That's all scholastic, kind of like, being exact, but neither here nor there. But very interesting still, nonetheless. So you got a rational person, a thinking person, an investigative person would have to ask themselves, why is it only Mesopotamian gods mentioned in a book that is made up primarily, in a book of people that's made up of primarily kind of like refugee Egyptians? Wouldn't you find one Egyptian deity? But there's a reason you don't, right? So take note, right? This is Ugarit right here, right? So I want you to take note of Ugarit, because Ugarit becomes very important later on in our discussions. All right. Flaw number 4. So clearly Moses had ADHD, or he needed some help. There was some sort of genetic, drift going on there in his mind. Because why are you going to have to cross the Red Sea when, if we take the biblical narrative itself, if the Jews lived in Python and Ramses, which was in which what we call southern Kemet, but the northern region of Kemet, you could just walk across the land. You don't have to go through all sorts of extra part of the Red Sea myth and all of that. And then you want to say it was. Let me go ahead and put this in here. I need to go ahead and make this a reality. Then you want to say it's actually the Sea of Reeds, which is not an actual sea. It's more like a marsh, which, once again, you could have walked around. But no, instead, you're going to go and do the hard route, which in truth doesn't make any sense. So once again, so there's that. This is a little bit clearer route for you. So what they want you to believe is that they took this red route. For some reason, they got confused. Moses supposed to have fled. So when Moses killed the Egyptian, there's no conversation about him going across the Red Sea, or so they said he fled. Not like he got a boat. He just ran on foot. So clearly he did it up in this area, right? Moses killed the Egyptian up in this area, and he ran on foot to Midian. He could have took that same route with those 2 million people following behind him and walked across the land to get to where he was going. But this is some wild, crazy mess that he went down to the Red Sea. So hogwash doesn't make sense. Come on now, people. So we can really kind of say, with some serious certainty, just like the other biblical scholars say, that the Exodus is made up. That's just the start. That's the foundation. So let's go on and move from there. So now there are people that they are fighting, just like you have pushback in different religions. There's people that are fighting this, and they're trying to say, no, oh my God, no. The Jews had to have existed in history. So let's say, let's look at Akhenaten. He was the first monotheist in history. His narrative kind of makes sense. He comes right after some invaders. Let's squash this history. Let's press this history onto Akhenaten and see if we can make it fit. He has to be the Jewish pharaoh, right? But this joint, no. And one of the main people of these theories is Ahmed Osman, and another person that he's building off of is this dude named Donald Redford. And the gist of the theory goes like this, right? Now, we do know this. This is fact. This is what I am definitely going to tell you. This is for sure fact, right? So, okay, Yuya was an Asiatic visor to Tutmosis IV, right? Tutmosis IV was known as the Dreamer King. He's known as the Dreamer King because he went to sleep by the Sphinx, right? At that time, the Sphinx was Heramakhet was just a head in the desert, right? And the nature of the Kemetic economy, or the nature of the Kemetic environment, is it's sand, and sandstorms happen, and like every 20 to 30, maybe 40 years, the sandstorms build up and they cover Heramakhet, the Sphinx, and then you have to clear it away, right? And so this happens to be a period where, time goes on. It was the desert climate of ancient Kemet that preserved so much of our ancestral legacy. So we owe a lot to the climate at that time. And then people will say, our ancestors knew that this would happen because the days would come when we would have to know about their knowledge. Whatever. So, take it how you take it. It is what it is. But anyway, that's what Tutmosis IV is known for, the Dreamer King. He had a dream that the Sphinx told him to uncover the Sphinx. He did so, And that's his reputation so far in history, part of it. Now, Tutmosis the Fourth, he brought in Yuya. Yuya brought in his chick Thuya, and they got busy and had tea, right? Now, Tutmosis the Fourth was succeeded by Amenhotep III, his son, who was 12 when he became pharaoh. He then married his sister, and after marrying his sister, married T, and it was said that T was 8 when they did so. And then T and Amenhotep III had who was known as Amenhotep IV, who changed his name to Akhenaten, that people are trying to say is Moses, right? So this is Yuya, this is Tuya, this is a statue of Tuya. Now this is Queen T, right? This is Amenhotep III. This is Queen T. This is kind of funny. So Queen T, although having African features, her nationality, got that point there, her nationality is Asiatic, So Amenhotep III, an African, Kemetic ancestors, marries or gets busy with an Asiatic, and we get this guy who happens to be now half Asiatic, half Kemetic, ruling on the throne of ancient Kemet, right? Now his mother is in charge. I mean, come on now, you got to listen to your mom. So his mother is in charge, and remember, his mother is the daughter of Tuya and Yuya. And Yuya is, as both of them are clearly Asiatics. And we got to remember at this point in time, right, Kemet is ruling in what's called Asia Minor. Kemet is ruling in Mesopotamia and Canaan at this time. So that we have to take that into consideration. This is going to be important later on, but this is why people are trying to push Akhenaten on here, right? So the theory is not making sense, number one, because so what happened with Akhenaten is Akhenaten went about ancient Egypt and he disrupted the Kemetic society. He went about and then he changed the deity, the main head deity of Kemetic society, from the Amen, the hidden essence of the universe, to Aten, the sun disk, the disk of the sun. And then he went on this concerted effort to obliterate any references to Amen across the land. He confiscated the wealth of the Amen priesthood, used it to build up the Armana, right? Tel El Armana. Remember this name El. It's very interesting that he would call his city Tel El Armana. And then just kind of like causing all sorts of chaos, right? So eventually he reigned for 17 years. And they say he disappeared. He could have been assassinated. No, it's kind of lost to history. But then the Amen priesthood, came back to power and restored the internal dynamics of ancient Kemet. But Akhenaten's work was kind of done. Like he did really damage ancient Kemetic society. So this man, some call him a philosopher king. I call him a philosopher traitor. But this man did his job very well, right? But basically the theory, they're trying to really push. So when Akhenaten would have been gone or would have been pushed off of the throne, there's theories that his priesthood would have been kicked out of ancient Kemet. And then if they were kicked out of ancient Kemet, the only place they would have went if they're walking, well, they could have walked west. I mean, yeah, they could have walked west, but more than likely they walked east. And if they walked east, they went into the land of Palestine, Mesopotamia, Canaan at that time. And so there's theories that, and this is what they're trying to force down. They're like, okay, so Akhenaten was Moses. This is the Akhenaten is Moses theories. And this is a vain attempt at trying to validate this little myth of theirs. But then you got all sorts of, it makes no sense. Moses was not a pharaoh in their stories. Moses was the enemy of the pharaoh. Hold on one second. Moses was the enemy of the pharaoh, and then on top of that, not a lot of people would have left out. Not a lot of people would have left out of Kemet. The priesthood is not that big. You understand? It was a fairly new priesthood, right? So So this is not making any sense here. There are people that want to validate their own existence by saying this is what it was, but we can tell that's not what it is, right? So we've already went through this. This is what Akhenaten is. This is what he did. Now this is interesting. I want everybody like really kind of pay attention to this map, right? Pay attention to this map. So Akhenaten's family is the first group of people on the planet to really create an empire, but they did this out of necessity. After they kicked the Hyksos out, they realized that they just couldn't be. Kemetic politics was such that they were kind of internal. They kind of had their little skirmishes with different people, but they were really just concerned about their own wealth and welfare and well-being, right? They didn't really go about conquering other areas until the 18th dynasty. And so they actually became like an official empire back then. And in this Canaanite Syria area, they would take what they call vassal princes and vassal king, well, princes for the most part, educate them in Kemet, and then send them back to their lands to rule their lands in Kemet's name, right? This is going to become pretty important later on in the presentation as we discover really who the Hebrews are. Right, because we're already saying that we're chopping it up. That is hogwash. So, and especially this the Moses story and Akhenaten's story doesn't fit. They're trying to fit this 400-year story into the Jews being in Egypt, but we already see they weren't in Egypt. They were in Egypt 210 years at the very least, or at the most 210. So this 400-year thing is a load of hogwash, so to speak. So we're seeing this is not making sense. It's not fitting, but they're really pushing it. They're really pushing it, and it's crazy. It's actually absolute madness, right? And we're allowing these people to go on, and then to fill our minds with more of these little lies. So this was information about the Aten. There's really no more reason to go over that, because we can see that now. I heard someone talk about Osiriseth. And try to say that Osiriseth is the pharaoh of the Exodus, so to speak, right? And but when Akhenaten came back, when Akhenaten left the throne, right, they erased him from historical memory, but they didn't erase him from oral memory. And so what we see here with Manetho explaining the account of Osiriseth, we see an oral tradition of Akhenaten still living on in the cultural memory of the priests of ancient Kemet about Akhenaten, not Moses. But because Manetho was talking to Josephus and whatever, and then there was an understanding that the Jews had a Moses story, it all got kind of convoluted and mixed up together. That's my best guess on that. You understand? Because they say here that the Osirisites invited the Hyksos back into Egypt, and together with their new allies, drove Amenophis and his son Ramses into exile into Nubia and instituted a 13-year reign of religious oppression. So that phrase, 13-year reign of religious oppression, towns and temples were devastated, the images of the gods destroyed, the sanctuaries turned into kitchens, and the sacred animals roasted over fires. That phrase right there, there's only one person in Kemetic history that fits that phrase, and that would be Akhenaten. Now, Akhenaten ruled not for 13, but for 17 years. See, but all you have to do is add 4 more years to this number right here, and everything else is verbatim what this dude did. So the best, it would be, it's not too far off to say that this story is a cultural recollection of Akhenaten without saying his name. All right, so let's go ahead and recount what we're talking about here, right? There is no evidence truly of any exodus being associated with Akhenaten. We can only guess that the priests and their families that were with Akhenaten were driven out of Kemet. This is the best we can do. Once again, the Jewish narrative shows no evidence of having direct Egyptian influence. There would have been mentioned at least one Egyptian god by name. And then the Exodus enslavement narrative doesn't fit the Moses has Pharaoh narrative, and also the timeline doesn't fit. So once again, Exodus story should be bombed, exploded. And then let's look at this silly route that they want us to believe they took again. So instead of doing the common sense thing and, you know, the fastest way between 2 points is a straight line, the silliest way to get to escape from oppression is to knowingly run into obstacles that you don't have the tools to deal with, because they didn't have the boats to carry the people across the Red Sea. So why are these fools leading them to the Red Sea when they could just cross over the land? And if they needed God to part the Sea of Reeds, which is literal marshes, they must have been a bunch of midgets running across the land. Not making sense. And why would Pharaoh's army drown in marshes? Come on, y'all. Just toss the Exodus story in the garbage, you know, wrap it up, throw it away, put it in a recycle, turn it into something else. It doesn't happen. It's not cool. Right? Moses. But now we got to deal with who actually were the ancient Hebrews then, because we got to deal with them. We got to deal with them. And why do we have to deal with them? We have to deal with them simply because we do have mention of them in ancient texts, right? So here we have the Maranatha Stela, right? Let me go ahead. I need to try to, what I'm doing here is I'm getting things kind of ready for something that's supposed to take place a little later on. Hopefully it takes place tomorrow. And if you're still tuned in, it's going to be pretty dope. So, if you're still here, what do you think so far of this presentation, of my word flow, my word play? How is it so far? Like, just give me a little bit of feedback before I go on. This is like part 1. If you're still there. If not, we'll go on. All right. So this is the Maranatha Stela, right? And in the Maranatha Stela, we have what could be a mention of Israel, but you know, I'm kind of doubtful on that. But nonetheless, let's roll with it. It's possible. So we have the Canaan has been plundered into every sort of woe. Ashkelon has been overcome. Gezer has been captured. Yanonam is made non-existent. Israel is laid waste, and his seed is not. Hura is become a widow because of Egypt. So in ancient times, we clearly do have mention of Israel. The Maranatha Stela is dated to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 1235, 1295 BCE. Or we can say 13th century. And that'll be YouTube. That'll be safe to say. So hold on one second, everybody. Let me go ahead and make some adjustments here. Boom, boom, boom. There you go, there you go, there you go. All right, now, so who are these people? One of the earliest references to the Sashu is in the 15th century BCE list of peoples in the Transjordan region. This is on a stela by Amenhotep III. It says the Sashu of Ser, the Sashu of Reuben, the Sashu of Semet, the Sashu of Weber. And this is really interesting because for the first time in history, we have our world famous mention of this dude, the Sashu of Yahweh. Yahweh makes one of the first entrances on the scene as being a Sashu, but that may not necessarily be a good thing. And then we got the Sashu of Psyops, right? So we definitely, you know, I'm definitely like a puzzle man. You know, I like to put pieces to a puzzle together. So when I find a piece, even if I don't like the piece, if I think it looks funny, something not right about it, but if it goes where it goes in order to fit into the puzzle, I got to put it in there. So that's what this is. This is a funny puzzle piece that you got to deal with, right? So once again, now the Armana letters, this is where a lot of information about the Hebrew, the Aparu, the Hebrew, the Sashu, comes from, right? Now, the Armana letters, remember, this is where this was the Kemetic area which they were taking the princes and telling them and educating them to be Egyptians. and ruling Egyptian thing and sending them back. Now, the Armana Letters, this is where they're coming from. They're coming from these vassal kings and these vassal princes. And who are they talking about? They're talking about Habaru. They're talking about the Aparu. They're talking about the Sashu. They're talking about these people wrecking ship in these areas, right? So now, so we're kind of, I hope you're coming to understand here. The Exodus story is crap, but we're getting kind of an idea of some people that already may have issue with Kemet now, and that are wrecking ship on these different cities that Kemet rules. So these are the different letters that mention the Habaru, the Aparu, and the Sashu, right? We got EA 100, 271, 290, 299, and 366, right? So the interesting reference to the Aparu appears in 14th century Armana correspondence. The rulers often complained to their Egyptian overlord about raiding Habaru and the plead for Egyptian archers to come and help. And so this is the, let me see. I need to put this up further. Hold up. Hold on one second, everybody. All right. So.
It's ready. Just so you know.
Here is letter 271, and this is one of the first letters to reference. Now, this isn't this little picture here isn't a picture of letter 271. This is kind of a general picture that you'll get whenever you reference the Armana letters, but this is the actual transliteration from the Armana letter. It says, "Say to the king, my lord, my God, my son, message of Miliku, your servant, the dirt at your feet. I fall at the feet of the king, my lord, 7 times 7, blah, blah, blah." He says, "May the king, my lord, know that the war against me and against the Suardata is severe. So may the king, my lord, save his land from the power of the Aparu." Okay, that's letter 271. Now let's move on. Once again, when a tablet from the king arrived saying to raid the land of the Aparu the Aparu had taken from the king, they waged war against us, the enemy of our Lord, the man whom you placed over us. Truly, we are guarding the land. They're begging this dude, help us out, help us out. Now, the guy that they're begging is Akhenaten. And what is Akhenaten doing at this time? He's making poems and he's destroying the nation. This is what he's doing at the time. He's ignoring the Armana letters and he's doing poetry like he's got some sort of, ADHD or some sort of issue. And he's allowing these people to gain power in this land. The same people that conquered the land of his ancestors, and that his direct family ancestral line made sure that they wouldn't be a problem anymore. Now he's dismantling it. Why? Because this is the half Asiatic king helping out who? His Asiatic brethren, the Asiatic black man. Once again, this time this guy's getting this letter is about a man getting triple teamed, right? So he's begging for help. And this is when the Habaru is mentioned as the Haparu. Understand this. Another letter, 299. Habaru are stronger than we. May the king, my lord, give us his help. So we have several mention of the Habaru that are at war with these Kemetic outposts and taking them over. Akhenaten, like I said, busy upsetting the Kemetic social order by changing the national religion of Kemet from recognizing Amen, elevating Aten, also changing the capital, doing some serious psychological warfare on ancient Kemet, changing the capital from Thebes to who? Tel El Armana. Now remember that name El. It's going to become important later on, right? And so basically he's moving the kingdom from here to here, moving it from the southern regions, or the northern regions from the southern regions up a little bit closer to the north, right? And all of this, he's writing poems. He's not paying attention. Our land is in danger of being under attack. And he's just like, whatever. He's not caring. He's definitely drinking or something, right? Once again, this was the Marimpata Stella. No need to have that there. And this is a relief that talks about the Sashu and the mountain ridges of Canaan. This is going to become important. They were up in the mountains of Canaan, and they had no regard for Egypt, right? So this is going to become important. Remember that. This was the Sashu that were in the mountains of Canaan, right? They were in what's called, what is modern day called the highlands of Canaan, right? So I want to remind you, I am talking about the origins of the Hebrew Israelites. Who are they? That is the point of this discussion, right? So this was the Takanani Prism from Anatolia. It dates, and this is a little bit north of the land area we're talking about. So it was found here, and it dates from around 1550 BC. Here we find the names of Habaru soldiers, and the majority are Hurrian, and they have other Semitic names, but this is Habaru soldiers on the stone here, right? So we also see that they were let me link into these Hebrews. So people really want to link them to the Hebrews of the Bible, right? So understand, we're starting to get a picture of who they were. Once again, this is a map of the Armana letters and where they came from, right? This is the Habru in the Fertile Crescent when they were known here. So right here, I need to do something here. Boom, boom, boom. So let's recap so far. Right now, what we've got going on here is the Exodus story is crap, and the Akhenaten has Moses is crap, but Akhenaten playing a pivotal role in helping the Asiatic black man win his freedom from the African black man. This is what we do have. So Akhenaten does have a historical role in being something to the African continent, but definitely not a philosopher and a lover of Africa, much more a lover of Asia. This is what we have going on here so far. So I need you to remember, this relief talks about the Sashu in the mountains of Canaan, in the mountains of Mesopotamia, in the mountains of Syria. So here is a topographical map of Mesopotamia, of Syria, of Canaan at the time. This is the mountainous regions that they're talking about, right? Recently, they have done excavations on sites here, what they call proto-Israelite sites, right? So this is what they're, and this is a little bit better map. This is the area that the Kemites were talking about. Hold a second, let me go up here. Boom, boom, boom. When it,
She's asking what time.
6. Hold on one second. Boom, boom, boom. This relief was talking about the people living in this area. This relief was talking about the people living in this area. So, I need you to know that modern day archaeologists are saying that the people in this area were what they call the proto-Israelites, the people who would develop into the Israelites. Who did the Kemites say were living in this area? The Aparu, the Habaru, the Sashu. I hope you're getting this. Like we're dealing, and what did? Hold on one second. And what did the instructor say to King Mary Kare? The vile Asiatic is miserable because of the place he is in. So now we're starting to understand who this vile Asiatic is. The vile Asiatic is the Hebrew Israelite people. That's who he's talking about. Trying to instruct our African ancestors about these people. And we were paying attention for a couple of thousand years, but we dropped the ball along the way. Now, these are some of the sites that they're excavating right now. This is Samaria, the capital of these Jerusalem, and so-called capital of the Jerusalem. This is what they label Samaria. They're really trying their hardest to give themselves some history. But this is what they label Samaria, right? The capital of this area, or the capital of the Jews. Once again, this is another highland area. This is called Tel Etan. Remember Tel, like Tel El Armana, Tel El. El was a deity, Ugarit. Remember when I say Ugarit, please. Once again, this is Shiloh, the site of Shiloh. This is all sites in the Bible. This is where it's fine. Remember, this is who these people are. So I want you to take note of that. Take note of what we are saying here. Let me see something. All right. So I am going to end this here. I see that was 1 hour. I hope you enjoyed the presentation. That's not it. There is a part 2. Coming up later. I just need to practice. I will come on a little bit later tonight and do this one more time. Soon, much love, sister. Always appreciate you and your essence and your presence. And be back when I'm back. And I'll see you when I see you. Light and love, peace and blessings to all that is, was, and ever shall be.